everyone, I'm Dishwati from First BA English Literature in Self Finance. My topic is plants have feelings too. I chosen this topic to explain we cut or touch a plant or tree, it has some kinds of feeling, but it doesn't have a mouth to explain their feelings to say their some feelings to someone. So some people doesn't know that. So I chosen this topic. There is a very obvious and important objective to the arguments that from an ethical point of view. Eating plants is no better or worse than eating animals. There is obvious concurrence the sheer quantity of plants need to produce meats. An impressible favorite mentions by otherwise rational people who wish to defect the concurrent word view goes like this. Plants have feelings too. How can you kill all those innocent cabbages and still claim that killing animals is wrong? Haven't you heard about the study where the guy proved the plants have feelings too? My response to until recently had always been something to the effect of why, yes, I have heard about this study, but somehow no particular heard about this study, but somehow particular scientist, university or inventions is ever mentioned in associations with it. Where the results of this study peer reviewed or published in the scientific journal. No one who has ever been on the vegan sides of this conversations need to be told how those on the sides of this inheritance response. There are never any names given, so cited or particulars offered giving their claim all the mosquitoes of the urban legend. But just for the sake of arguments, let us overlook the complete absence of the scientific merit that overlook the complement absence of the scientific merit that the claim process and assumes that it is a somehow true that plants are consciousness. Let us let us somehow true that the plants are consciousness. Let us ignore the facts that plants do not possess brains or nervous system and assume on the basis of the no creditable evidence and his whatsoever that plants are sensational begins of the plants. Psychobotany is the legitimate science. Taking this claim at face value actually weakens the corneas test case against the vegan. There is a very obvious and important objections the argument that from an ethical point of view, eating plants is no better or worse than eating animals. This objection concurrence the sheer quantity of the plants need to produce meat. Producing a single pound of beef, for instance, requires 16 pounds of grains. 1 pound of pack requires 16 pounds of grains, and for every 16 ounces of edible chicken flesh that is produced, at least 5 pounds of innocent plants must force their livings in the United States alone. Of Abel's lands are dedicated to growing hay for livestock productions, whereas only 4 million acres of Abel's lands are dedicated to growing hay for livestock productions, whereas only 4 million acres are used to grow fruits and vegetables for people. 30% of earth land suffers, which is equivalent to 70% of all agricultural lands on the planet is devoted to growing crops for the rising from the animals. And according to the American Journal of the Clinical Nutrition, the amount of the grain-fed livestock in the US alone could feed about 840 million people. Roughly 11 times the number of people who die is in starvations every year. If one is legitimate concurrent with mitigating the amount of suffering in the world, then there is simply no way to justify eating meat, especially if one believes that plants also suffer. We will leave aside for the moment that these figures represent an arachnations, immoral and unsustainable misappreciations of the world, dualing natural resources, and we will concentrate instead on the issues of suffering, which is such a great concurrent to Many meat eaters who are convinced that vegans bear the response for the inflicting pains and miserable upon innocent fruit, vegetables, nuts, and seed tuberoses. If one is legitimate concurrent with mitigating the concurrent of the suffering the world, the then there is a simple no way to justify eating meat, especially if one believes the plants also suffer. The measurings of the sufferings of tens of billions of animals raised and slaughtered for food every year are multiplied by the hundreds of order of magnitude if one accepts the claim that plants as well as animals possess concurrence and therefore suffers when they are harvested. That killing and eating animals causes them to suffer is undeniable. That eating plants causes them to suffer a proportions that has never been demonstrated in the controlled scientific expressions. Despite of the numerous effects of the scientific to determine the, the legitimacy of so-called privacy perceptions. It is the time we record the plants curve feeling, recognize the plants curve feelings to arguments for what is it is a factless. Thanking you.